So this is just going to be a video on some affordable leather sheath options from Smoky Mountain Knife Works for three different knives that I have. And they probably have stuff that would fit just about anything that you would want a sheath for over there for affordable prices. Now, that being said, these sheaths are mostly made in China, with the exception of this, which I think is made in Mexico, but not USA made sheaths. Probably not the highest quality, but it will hold a knife and keep the blade from cutting you and stuff. And you will be able to carry a knife on your belt. Um, so if you're just looking for a cheap, affordable, whatever word you want to use, leather sheath for a knife that you have, maybe check out Smoky Mountain Knife Works for their cheaper leather sheaths for knives and stuff. Um, but anyway, what started this was actually this knife here. Now this is a old timer. I believe they call it a butcher knife. Not an old timer, an old hickory. They call it a butcher knife. I bought this at a little hardware store in Maryland that we went to, which was a cool little hardware store. One of those little stores that like you go in and it's cool, but like you don't really need anything. So like you're looking around for stuff to buy. And I'm like, well, what do I want to spend my money on here that I don't need and everything? And I was about to spend my money on something else. And then I saw their little display of old hickory knives on the wall. And I saw this one and I thought, oh, there we go. I'll buy that. I think it was like $16 or $17. Pretty good price for something like this. It probably would be cheaper online, but supporting a smaller hardware store is always nice when you can do that. So I bought this knife a little while ago, and obviously, like, I don't really need a butcher knife, but I thought, oh, that would make a really good large fixed blade, like quote unquote survival knife. Although, um, what it would really be would be like a camp knife. Um, but yeah, it's a big old knife, cool blade shape and everything. These old hickory knives are made in the USA. I think they're owned by Ontario, but they're owned by Ontario. It says right there. Carbon steel, so I love them. My only kitchen knife is one of these, but it's like a smaller, like paring knife. Um, Someday I should do a video on that. But that's what started it. I needed a sheath for this, so I ordered this. I think this was like $3 or $4, and it's really not great quality or whatever. And I think it's like an 8 inch. Let's see if I have. Yeah, I think it's 8 inches because that's 6 inches. I just dropped my ruler on the floor. I gotta remember to pick that up. Um, so this is 8 inch sheath. This one's made in China. Not very good quality. I don't know what you guys know about leather, but it's just not good quality leather. But it does fit the old hickory butcher knife here really well. Like I said, I think I paid $3 or $4 for this. Holds it really well. You probably wouldn't even really need this ring loop. The ring loop's not really doing anything anyway. But it's there, so I'll button it. And then the way this goes on your belt then is these two outer parts. Your belt goes through here like this, because it took me a second to realize that, but your belt would go through here like this, and then it would be mounted on your belt. So really cheap sheath, really cheap option for a sheath for this, affordable fixed blade knife. That I, really like these old hickory knives. Um, so I wanted a sheath for this one so that I'd have options to possibly carry it if I ever decided that I needed to carry a 7.5 or however long inch blade for some reason. I now have the option to do so, and it was very cheap. It was $3 or $4, and now I can safely carry this knife if I want to for some reason. And then the next thing was I wanted a belt sheath, like a Buck 110 belt sheath for this Queen big boy jumbo trapper. They don't call it a jumbo trapper. I call it a jumbo trapper. If you didn't see a video that I did before, this is in fact carbon steel. They've updated it on their website now, but it is carbon steel. It is staining and patinaing and everything. I do really like this knife. I haven't been carrying it a whole lot here recently, but I did carry it for like a week and a half straight. And the reason why I decided I needed a belt sheath for it was I've started getting back into bike riding now that the weather's gotten nicer. And having a knife that's this big and heavy in your pocket while you're doing that, it's a little bit inconvenient. But this is one of the Chinese made ones again. Right Edge, I think, is the brand on this, which I don't know what Right Edge does, but just a cheaply made, not very good quality sheath here. And you can even tell here that like the loop is not very thick or whatever. So I don't know how well this will hold up over time, but this was literally I think $3. I think it was $2.99 or maybe $3.99. Either way, not a lot of money for what I needed. It fits the Queen Big Boy Trapper really well. It's got this pattern here in it, which I could take or leave. I didn't want a black sheath because I just don't really like the color black that much. I would prefer brown. I would actually prefer like a natural leather, but they didn't have that obviously. But it holds the Queen Big Boy Trapper really well. I'm happy about that. The snap's not exactly the most like secure thing, so you do have to kind of keep that in mind. But once again, this was a cheap belt sheath for your buck 110 sized pocket knives, and there are a bunch of different sizes of these for your knives also. But yeah, pretty good option for carrying something like this on your belt for not a lot of money. And then this is the nicest sheath that I bought. I think this one was made in Mexico. And this is for another old hickory knife. I bought this old hickory knife. Now, this one came with a sheath, but the sheath it came with wasn't really what I wanted because I think, as a lot of people kind of know, most of these cheaper sheaths, the belt loop part is mounted down too low. Now, this one's actually pretty good. But a lot of these ones, the belt loop will be mounted like halfway down the sheath, and the knife will be sticking in your side and stuff. And I'm fat, so like I don't really like that. Generally speaking, I like a knife to be a little bit lower. So for a while, I was looking for like something to carry it horizontally, or something to carry it horizontally, or some other way that was comfortable. Because this knife is a more realistic size, something that I could actually maybe carry on a semi-regular basis while I'm hiking or something. Obviously, probably not in public because, still fixed blades are kind of crazy, but you can kind of get an idea here of how ridiculous this butcher knife is. Um, but, more realistic sized fixed blade knife, pretty much. In fact, if I compare it to the Endura, is it the Endura? Which one is this? I don't remember. Yeah, the Endura. If I compare it to the Endura, the blade lengths are honestly about the same. So the Endura is just a folding knife, which means you can put in your pocket and everything. But this is a smaller fixed blade knife, maybe about 4-inch blade or so. Pretty comfortable and everything. It's got a little guard there for your finger. I think the style of blade that this is kind of called like a Kephart or something like that. Kephart. It's something like that. But I like the style of blade that it is. It reminds me of like a spear point. And I feel like, this would be a good camp/hiking knife. And I do feel like these old hickory knives are good quality, American made, carbon steel, all that stuff that I really like. I never did a video on these because fixed blades really aren't my thing. But I do like these old hickory knives just because, and everything, just because they're made in America and they seem to be pretty well made. This is a fairly thin blade stock. But it's a nice little knife, and I wanted a sheath for it that was going to be more comfortable. So this one, the belt loop is mounted up pretty much as high as you can have it. And then when the blade's in here, when the knife's in here, not the blade, okay, that's the whole way in pretty much. So the handle sticks up a little bit further than I would like it to in an ideal world, but like it's still not sitting up much higher than like a standard. I should have brought out the I mean, if you look at it from this perspective, it's sitting up about as far as this one. Should have brought out the original sheath for this, but But yeah, so it's really not sitting up that much higher than like, you would really want it to be. Now, I would like it to be a little lower, but this is as good as it's going to get because of the shape of this knife and everything. Um, that's just as far as it goes in, pretty much. Now, as I, if I carry this and everything, hopefully this sheath will like form to the blade a little bit because it's not like loose, but like if you really tried, you could get it to fall out of there probably. Now that being said, obviously you're wearing it like this on your belt, so it's probably not going to happen, but you never know. But I think this sheath was around $9 or something, and this one's actually pretty good quality as far as I'm concerned. Like look at the around the edge here, the leather quality is not necessarily the best, but it does seem to be the best made out of these three sheaths that I got. Um, it's double stitched, so I like to see that. But yeah, I think this one's probably the best one out of the ones that I got. And like I said, I think this one was like $8 or $9, something like that. And it fits my old Hickory, whatever this is, camp knife. I don't know what they call this. Bought it like a year ago. I don't remember what they call it anymore. But it fits that knife well. I'm sure there's other knives that it would fit well. Um, but yeah, it's just a little video on some super affordable sheaths that you can get on SmokyMountainKnifeWorks.com. There are way more than just these three, obviously. There's a whole bunch of them. These three were just the ones that I figured were going to be the best ones for these three knives or three uses, whatever you want to call it. And it turns out that they work out pretty well for what I wanted them for. So yeah, I haven't really carried any of these knives yet. I did use this sheath carry, I think once or twice, but these other ones haven't been used yet because I don't know if I'm ever gonna carry this. I just wanted to have a sheath for it, and this I probably will carry, but like I haven't really gone hiking or anything since I bought it. So, so yeah, probably at some point this will get some use, but it has not yet. So if anything breaks or whatever, I will give you guys an update on that. Um, but for now, that'll be it for today. And hope you guys have a good day. I will see you in the next one.